This section of this video I am going to go about the corrosion and its control, which is very bad phenomena for the aircraft, and it is very necessary to understand the aviation aircraft maintenance people. Metal corrosion is the deterioration of the metal by chemical or electrochemical attack and can take place internally as well as on the surface. As in the rotting of wood, this deterioration may change the smooth surface, weaken the interior, or damage or loosen adjacent parts. Water or water vapor containing salt combined with oxygen in the atmosphere to produce the main source of corrosion in aircraft. Aircraft operating in a marine environment or in areas where the atmosphere contains industrial fumes which are corrosive are particularly susceptible to corrosive attacks. Corrosion can cause eventual structural failure if left unchecked. The appearance of the corrosion varies with the metal. On aluminum alloys and magnesium, it appears as surface pitting and etching, often combined with a grey or white powdery deposit. On copper and copper alloys, the corrosion forms a greenish film. On steel, a reddish rust. When the grey, white, green or reddish deposits are removed, each of the surfaces may appear edged and pitted, depending upon the length of exposure and severity of attack. If these surface pits are not too deep, they may not significantly alter the strength of the metal. However, the pits may become sites for crack development. Some types of corrosion can travel beneath surface coatings and can spread until the part fills. Corrosion and its control are of primary importance to all operators. Corrosion weakens primary structural members which must be replaced or reinforced in order to sustain loads to which they may be subjected. Such replacement or reinforcements are costly and time consuming, resulting in unscheduled delays, frequently keeping the airplane out of service for a considerable time. Preventive maintenance of the aircraft on a regular schedule, as with any valuable equipment, is the only sound practice. It minimizes the cost of total labor expended and productive time lost. It puts both of these costs on a predictable basis and removes uncertainty and guesswork on the actual condition of the equipment. All metals are subject to chemical and electrochemical attack, which converts them into metallic compounds such as oxides, hydroxides, carbonates, sulfurs, or other salts. Some metals resist attack better than others, but the resistance of most metals may vary with such factors as physical environment, applied or internal stress, heat treatment, state or working temperatures. Although many of the metals used in aircraft constructions have reasonable resistance to corrosion, it is essential that all possible action is taken to prevent its occurrence and to detect and remedy any corrosive attack, even if it appears to be insignificant. As corrosion may arise from many different causes and can affect all kinds of metallic structure and components, it is beyond the scope to enumerate all the defects that may result from it. It is also impracticable to enumerate every remedy, as the treatment of each affected part must be determined by its nature and its function in the particular aircraft. Guidance on the repair and reproduction of corroded parts should be obtained from the appropriate manufacturer's publications, but whenever doubt exists, the manufacturer should be consulted. The corrosion process always involves two simultaneous changes. The metal that is attacked or oxidized suffers what may be called anodic change, and the corrosive agent is reduced and may be considered as undergoing cathodic change. In these types of corrosion, again, corrosion is a largely an electrochemical phenomena and is liable to occur whenever a difference in potential exists between two metals or a metal and substances in the vicinity in the presence of an electrolyte. For this, I am giving you one figure to understand. Can also occur when a difference in potential exists between separate regions of a single piece of metal or between the different constituents of an alloy. The degree of corrosion experienced will depend on external conditions and in some environment will be negligible. Serious attack usually takes place only if moisture is present to act as an electrolyte between the poles created by any difference in potential. Two changes then occur. The metal that is attacked suffers a chemical change, some of it being converted into a metallic compound, whilst the cathodic pole of the circuit may be reduced. I am going to describe you about the direct chemical attack, then I will be going for the electrochemical attack. Now first, direct chemical attack or pure chemical corrosion is an attack resulting from a direct exposure of a bare surface to caustic liquid or gaseous agents. Unlike electrochemical attack, where the anodic and cathodic changes may be taking place a measurable distance apart, the changes in direct chemical attack are occurring simultaneously at the same point. The most common agent causing direct chemical attack on aircraft are: number 1, spilled battery acid or fumes from batteries; number 2, residual flux deposit resulting from inadequately cleaned, welded, brazed or soldered joints; and number 3, entrapped caustic cleaning solutions. Spilled battery acid is becoming less of a problem with the advent of aircraft using nickel-cadmium batteries, which are usually closed units. The use of these closed units lessen the hazards of acids, spillage and battery fumes. Many types of fluxes used in brazing, soldering and welding are corrosive and they chemically attack the metals or alloys with which they are used. Therefore, it is important that residual flux may be removed from the metal surface immediately after the joining operation. Flux residues are hygroscopic in nature, that is, they are capable of absorbing moisture and, unless carefully removed, tend to cause severe pitting. Caustic cleaning solution is concentrated form should be kept tightly capped and as far from aircraft as possible. Some cleaning solutions used in corrosion removal are in themselves potentially corrosive agents, and particular attention should be directed towards their complete removal after use on aircraft. Where entrapment of the cleaning solution is likely to occur, a non-corrosive cleaning agent should be used, even though it is less efficient. In this direct chemical attack, when metals combine with atmospheric oxygen or are attacked by acids, the anodic and cathodic changes occurs at the same point. Impurities in the atmosphere can be responsible for the type of corrosion. Thus, aircraft operating near the sea are affected by airborne salt particles, whilst the high sulfur content of industrial atmospheres has a markedly deleterious effect on some exposed metallic surfaces. There is also the possibility of accidental contact with harmful substances. Where the form of attack occur, the attack of metal is converted into a chemical compound by the corrosive agent. Example, aluminum may be converted to aluminum sulfate by battery acid. Now there is a note we have to understand. See, on aircraft used for crop spraying, special care must be given to the inspection of the structure owing to the corrosive nature of some of the chemicals used. Guidance for this CAA's recommendations and requirements applicable to these aircraft is given in leaflet AL-7-13. Two types of corrosion, we have to understand the electrochemistry. In order to understand corrosion, we must understand the basic facts of electrochemistry. For this is what corrosion actually is: an electrochemical action. All matter is made up of atoms and molecules. An atom is the basic unit of a chemical element, while a molecule is a cluster of atoms which make up the smallest identifiable unit of chemical compound. For example, sodium in bracket Na is its formula is a metallic element and consists simply of atoms. Combined with chlorine, however, it forms a molecule of sodium chloride, which is known to as common table salt. An atom consists of a nucleus made of protons which have positive charges and neutrons with no charge. Surrounding the nucleus are electrons, negatively charged particles of electrical energy. If the atom has exactly the same number of electrons as protons, it is considered to be balanced. But if there are more or fewer electrons than protons, the atom is said to be charged and is called an ion. If there are more electrons than protons, there is a negative ion. But if there are more protons than electrons, it is positive ion. An ion is unstable, always seeking to lose or gain the extra electron so it can change back into a balanced or neutral atom. Electrons are the particles of electrical energy that flow or move in an electrical circuit, and it is the movement of these submicroscopic charges with which we are concerned. Metals may be arranged in the order shown in the electrochemical series in the table which I am giving you to read. Table shows the relative ease with which these metals ionize. The earlier the metal appears in the series, the more active it is. Or as well as we see later, the more anodic it will act in the formation of corrosion. Corrosion is a natural phenomenon which destroys metals by chemical or electrochemical action and converts into a metallic compound such as oxide, hydroxide or sulfide, which we have read earlier. Many metals will become ionized due to galvanic action when brought into contact with even dilute acids, salts or alkalis, such as found in industrial contaminated air if an aluminum structure is in contact with moisture having a trace of hydrochloric acid. There will be a chemical reaction between the acid and the aluminum, and aluminum chloride and hydrogen will form. The chemical equation 2Al plus 6HCl gives 2LCl3 plus 3H2. This is a direct chemical attack reactions. The hydrogen is released as a gas and aluminum chloride, which is a salt, forms as a white powder on the surface of the metal. This is the visible evidence of corrosion. Corrosion is an electrochemical action in which one metal is changed into a chemical salt, or as we sometimes think of it, it is eaten away. When two metals are in contact with each other in the presence of some electrolyte such as hydrochloric acid, the less active metal the one that appears lower in the electrochemical series will act as the cathode and attract electrons from the anode. It is the anode which is corroded. Perhaps the easiest way to visualize what is actually taking place is to consider the action of a very simple battery such as the one we have in the figure. Immerse two metals in an acid, a saline or an alkaline solution which will act as an electrolyte. A battery is formed. This battery will produce a flow of electrons between the two metals as long as the metals exist. As long as the solution remains acidic, saline or alkaline, and as long as a conductive path connects the two metals. In our example, we have a piece of copper and a piece of aluminum in a weak solution of hydrochloric acid and water. In the electrochemical series, aluminum is considerably more active than copper. When electrons flow from the aluminum through the conductor to the copper, positive aluminum ions are left. Two of these ions attract 6 negative chlorine atoms from the acid and form 2 molecules of aluminum chloride, AlCl3, on the surface of aluminum. This eats away some of the base metal. The 6 positive hydrogen ions remaining in the acid are attracted to the copper by the electrons which came from the aluminum. These electrons neutralize the hydrogen ions and the 6 atoms form 3 hydrogen molecules, that is in bracket 3H2, and leave the surface as free hydrogen gas. On the basic characteristic of metals is this electrode potential. When two dissimilar metals are placed in an electrolyte, there will exist between these two metals a voltage or an electric potential. This potential will force electrons in the more negative material, the anode to flow to the less negative material, the cathode, if a conductive path is provided. In this figure, we have a piece of aluminum alloy such as alloy 2024, of which most aircraft structure is made. In this material, copper is alloyed with aluminum, and the microscopic grains of the copper and the aluminum serves as the cathode and the anode for our explanation. Aluminum is more negative than copper and will act as the anode in the galvanic action that takes place. Within the metal itself, the forces are such that there will be no flow of electrons between the two alloying agents until an external path is provided to form a complete circuit. This path is provided by the electrolyte, which may be a surface film of moisture which contains such pollutants as acids, salts, or other industrial contaminants. In our illustration, we will stick with a little hydrochloric acid in the atmosphere. The electrode potential between the aluminum and the copper grains causes positive ions to exist within the aluminum. When the electrolyte film covers the surface, the aluminum ions attack chlorine ions from the hydrochloric acid and form aluminum chloride. The salt of corrosion, hydrogen ions will be attracted to the copper by the electrons from the aluminum. These hydrogen ions will become neutralized and form molecules H2, which leave the surface as a free gas. Corrosion has formed on the anodic aluminum, but no corrosion products are evident on the copper, the cathode. This type of electrochemical attack produces pits filled with the salts of corrosion and is usually rather localized. But if the entire surface is covered with a strong electrolyte, there will be so much corrosion that it will produce a more or less uniformly damaged area. This type of corrosion is called a direct chemical attack, which I have discussed earlier, but I am giving you from the another book, so you go through this also. From this basic introduction, we see the three requirements for the formation of corrosion. Number one, there must be areas of electrode potential difference within the metal. Number two, there must be an conductive path through the metal between these two areas. Number three, on the surface between these two areas, there must be a conductive chemical path or an electrolyte containing materials to unite with the metal to form the chemical salts. Corrosion control therefore consists to preventing the chemical action by eliminating one or more of these basic requirements. In this all I have discussed chemical and direct chemical now also an electrochemical attack. Now more about electrochemical attack. An electrochemical attack may be likened chemically to an electrolytic reaction which takes place in an electroplating, anodizing, or in a dry cell battery. The reaction is the corrosive attack, requires a medium, usually a water, which is capable of conducting a tiny current of electricity when a metal comes in contact with a corrosive agent, and is also connected by a liquid or gaseous path through which electrons may flow. Corrosion begins as the metal decays by oxidation. During the attack, the quantity of corrosive agents is reduced and, if not renewed or removed, may completely react with the metal become neutralized. Different areas of the same metal surface have varying levels of electrical potential, which we have discussed earlier, and if connected by a conductor such as salt water, will set up a series of corrosion cells and corrosion will commence. All metals and alloys are electrically active and have a specific electrical potential in a given chemical environment. This we have also discussed. These constituents in an alloy also have a specific electrical potential which are generally different from each other. All have been discussed. Exposure of the alloy surface to a conductive corrosive medium causes the more active metal to become anodic and less active metal to become cathodic, therefore establishing conditions for corrosion. These are called local cells. The greater the difference in electrical potential between the two metals, the greater will be the severity of the corrosive attack if the proper conditions are allowed to develop. As can be seen, the conditions for the corrosion reactions are a conductive fluid and metals having a difference in potential. If by regular cleaning and surface refinishing the medium is removed and the minute electrical circuit eliminated, corrosion cannot occur. This is the basis for effective corrosion control. The electrochemical attack is responsible for most forms of corrosion on aircraft structure and component parts. The forms of corrosion. There are many forms of corrosion. The form of corrosion depends on the metal involved, its size and shapes, its specific function, atmospheric conditions, and the corrosion producing agents present. Those described in these sections are the most common forms found on airframe structures. Number one is oxidation, one of the simpler forms of corrosion and perhaps the one with which we are most familiar is dry corrosion, or it is most generally known oxidation. When a metal such as aluminum is exposed to a gas containing oxygen, a chemical reaction takes place on the surface between the metal and the gas. Takes place on the surface between the metal and the gas. Two aluminum alloy Two aluminum atoms join three oxygen atoms to form aluminum oxide. 2 aluminum plus 3 oxygen gives Al2O3. If the metal is iron or steel, ferrous metals, 2 atoms of iron will join 3 atoms of oxygen to form iron oxide or rust. 2Fe plus 3O gives Fe2O3. There is one big difference between an oxide and aluminum oxide. The film of aluminum oxide is unbroken, and once it has formed, further reactions with the oxygen continues at a greatly reduced rate. It almost stops. Iron oxide, on the other hand, forms of porous or an interrupted film, and the metal will continue to react with the oxygen in the air until the metal is completely eaten away. In order to protect iron from dry corrosion or rusting, the best procedure is to prevent oxygen coming into contact with its surface. This may be done temporarily by covering the surface with oil or grease, or for more permanent protection with a coat of paint. Aluminum alloy may be prevented from oxidation by the formation of an oxidation on its surface. This film insulates the aluminum from any electrolyte, that is in bracket gas or liquid, and will not itself further react with the oxygen. The protection afforded by an aluminum oxide coating forming on the surface of sheet metal is the principal reason for cladding, that is in bracket alclad, aluminum alloy used for structural applications. Uniform surface corrosion, where an area of unprotected metal is exposed to an atmosphere containing battery fumes, exhaust gases, or industrial contaminants, there will be a rather uniform attack over the entire surface. This dulling of the surface is caused by microscopic amounts of the metal being converted into corrosion salts. If these deposits are not removed and the surface protected against further action, there will develop such a rough surface that corrosion pits will form. Occasionally, corrosion will spread under the surface coating and cannot be recognized by either the roughening of the surface or the powdery deposit. Instead, the paint or plating will be lifted off the surface in small blisters, which result from the pressure of the underlying accumulation of the corrosion products. A common type of uniform surface corrosion is caused by the reaction of metallic surfaces with airborne chlorine or sulfur compounds, oxygen, or moisture in the atmosphere, or combination of these agents may attack a surface simultaneously. Reactive compounds from exhaust gases as well as fumes from storage batteries frequently cause uniform surface corrosion. The amount of damage caused by uniform surface corrosion is ordinarily determined by comparing the thickness of the corroded metal with that of an undamaged specimen. This may take the form of a uniform etching of the surface, pitting, or explosion of the surface grain boundaries. Light alloys are usually etched by white or grey porous deposits, whilst ferrous materials other than stainless steel become covered with reddish brown rust, and a greenish powder forms on copper. Surface corrosion reduces the amount of sound material remaining and so weakens structure, but since there is usually an indication of its existence, it is possible for it to be remedied by careful and systematic maintenance. Note: it may In many instances, the reduction in strength of a structure due to corrosion attack is out of all proportion to the reduction in thickness of the metal. Intergranular corrosion. Microphotographs of aluminum alloy show them to be made up of extremely tiny grains held together by chemical bonds. That is an interaction between the atoms of the various elements. In the process of heat treating, the metal is heated to such a temperature that these alloying agents go into solid solution with each other. When the required temperature is uniformly throughout the metal, it is removed from the furnace and must be immediately quenched in water to solidify these elements into extremely tiny grains. If quenching is delayed for even a few seconds, the grains will grow, and when finally quenched, may have reached a size that will produce areas of dissimilar metals large enough to form effective cathodes and anodes, so that intergranular corrosion can form. If then, through a pit, corrosive action reaches the boundary between the enlarged grains, it can continue within the metal. The electrolyte needed for this action is supplied from the surface through the corrosion deposits, and the corrosion continues along the grain boundaries. Spot or seam welding through the localized heating can also cause grain enlargement that will leave the metal susceptible to intergranular corrosion. Beneath the surface, removed from the point of the initial penetration, there may occur small blisters. The surface metal over these blisters is quite thin, and when picked with a knife point, shows a cavity filled with the salts of corrosion. Intergranular corrosion, since it is within the metal, itself rather than on the surface, is quite difficult to detect without ultrasonic or eddy current equipment, and just about the only practical remedy for intergranular corrosion is replacement of the part. Detection of this type of corrosion is difficult, as the surface evidence may only be visible through a magnifying glass. Indications of the presence of corrosion can be obtained by anodizing the part and examining for discoloration or black spots. Considerable experience is required for correct recognition, and often a metallurgical microscope examination will be necessary. The attack penetrates into the core of the material along the boundaries of the metal grains, as we have discussed earlier. As the material at the boundaries is usually anodic to the grain centers, the corrosion products often becomes concentrated at the boundaries. Although sometimes the attack is transgranular and is not limited by the lack of oxygen, but it is accelerated if applied or residual stress is present. Repeated tensile or fluctuating stresses encourage separation of the boundaries, so accelerating the spread of intergranular corrosion and giving rise to corrosion fatigue. As a result, higher stress concentrations occur in the remaining sound material. Cracks spread and complete failure follows. As there is no effective method of limiting or determining the loss of strength that occurs through this form of corrosion, material or parts showing any sign of it must be rejected immediately. Now next is dissimilar metal corrosion or galvanic corrosion. Extensive pitting damage may result from contact between dissimilar metal parts in the presence of a conductor, while surface corrosion may or may not be taking place. A galvanic action, not unlike electroplating, occurs at the points or areas of contact where the insulation has broken down or been omitted. This electrochemical attack can be very serious because the action is in many instances taking place out of sight, and the only way to detect it prior to structural failure is by disassembly and inspection. Common type of corrosion occurs any type two dissimilar metals are connected in a way that provides a path for electron flow, and their common surfaces are covered with some material that can serve as an electrolyte. Galvanic corrosion can take place where dissimilar metal skins are riveted together or where aluminum inspection plates are attached to the structure with steel screws. When metals of the same galvanic group as shown in the figure together, they show little tendency for galvanic corrosion. But metals of one group will corrode when they are held in contact with those in another group. The further apart the groups, the more active the corrosion will be. The material of the lower numbered group will be the anode of the galvanic pair and will be the one that is corroded. In the example which I am giving you a figure, which I have explained earlier also in understanding of electrochemistry, these two also, the earlier figure I have given also to understand, and this figure I am also giving you to understand, which I am repeating. Screw used to hold a 2024 aluminum alloy inspection plate in place. If contaminated moisture gets between the two metals, the aluminum which is in group 2 will be corroded rather than the steel screw which is in group 3. If 2024 aluminum alloy and magnesium are riveted together and are covered by an electrolyte, the magnesium from group 1 will corrode instead of the aluminum which is in group 2. Galvanic corrosion is usually visible as pitting and is often referred to as dissimilar metal corrosion, and however it is not limited to just dissimilar metals couples various types of concentration cells where electrons flow occurs between areas of points of different electrical potential are also example of galvanic corrosion. Pitting results when, in the presence of a conducting solution, electron flow occurs between different metals or between different points of areas on a metal surface exhibiting different electrical potential. Stress corrosion. Another special type of corrosion is stress corrosion. This occurs when the metal is subjected to a tensile stress in the presence of a corrosive environment. The stresses in the metal may come from improper quenching after heat treatment or from an interference press fit of a fastener. Stress corrosion may be transgranular or intergranular in nature. Cracks caused by stress corrosion grow rapidly as the corrosive attack concentrates at the end of the crack rather than along its sides. Since stress corrosion can occur only in the presence of tensile stresses, one expedient for preventing this type of corrosion in some heat-treated aluminum alloy parts is to short pin the surface to provide a uniform compressive stress on the surface. These stresses must be overcome by tensile forces before stress corrosion can form. Common locations for stress corrosion to form are between rivets in a stressed skin, around pressed in bushings or tapered pipe fittings. Careful visual inspection may show up this type of corrosion, but dye penetrant inspection is required to find the actual extent of the crack. These more lines to be added, that is, stress corrosion occurs as the result of the combined effect of sustained tensile stresses and a corrosive environment. Stress corrosion cracking is found in most metal systems However, it is a particularly characteristic of aluminium, copper, certain stainless steel, and high strength alloy steels, that is in bracket over 240,000 psi. It usually occurs along lines of cold working and may be transgranular or intergranular in nature. Aluminium alloy bell cranks with pressed in bushings, landing gear shock struts with pipe thread type gear grease fittings, clevis pin joints, shrink fits, and overstressed tubing. B nuts are examples of parts which are susceptible to stress corrosion cracking. Fretting corrosion. When two surfaces fit tightly together but can move relative to one another, they may be corroded. The surfaces are normally not close enough together to shut out oxygen, so they do develop the desired protective film. The film, however, is destroyed by the continued rubbing action. This wear is fretting corrosion. When the movement between the two surfaces is small, the debris between them does not have an opportunity to escape. It acts as an abrasive to further erode the surfaces. By the time this type of corrosion makes its appearance on the surface, the damage is usually done and the parts must be replaced. If the contact areas are small and sharp, deep grooves resembling Brinell markings or pressure indentations may be born in the rubbing surfaces. As a result, this type of corrosion for bearing surfaces has also been called false Brinelling. Fretting corrosion may occur around rivet in a skin and will be indicated by dark deposits around the rivet heads streaming out behind, giving the appearance of rivet smoking. Rivets showing this sign of fretting must be drilled out and replaced. Number 6 is oxidation. One of the simpler forms of corrosion, and perhaps the one with which we are most familiar is dry corrosion, or as it most generally known as oxidation. When a metal such as aluminium is exposed to a gas containing oxygen, a chemical reaction takes place on the surface between the metal and the gas. Two aluminium atoms join three oxygen atoms to form a aluminium oxide. 2Al plus 3O gives Al2O3. If the metal is iron or steel, ferrous metals, two atoms of iron will join three atoms of oxygen to form iron oxide or rust. 2Fe plus 3O gives Fe2O3. There is one big difference between one oxide and aluminium oxide. And the film of aluminium oxide is unbroken, and once it has formed, further reaction with oxygen continues at a greatly reduced rate. It almost stops. Iron oxide, on the other hand, forms a porous or an intergranular film, and the metal will continue to react with the oxygen in the air until the metal is completely eaten away. In order to protect iron from dry corrosion or rusting, the best procedure is to prevent oxygen coming into contact with the surface. This may be done temporarily by covering the surface with oil or grease for more permanent protection with a coat of paint. Aluminium alloy may be protected from oxidation by the formation of an oxide film on its surface. This film insulates the aluminium from any electrolyte, gas or liquid, and will not itself further react with the oxygen. The protection affordable by an aluminium oxide coating forming on the surface of steel metal to the principal reason for cladding (alkylide) aluminum alloy used for structural applications. Number 7 is pitting corrosion. Pitting is a logical result if uniform surface corrosion is left untreated. Pits forms as a localized anodic areas, and corrosive action may continue until an appreciable percentage of the metal thickness is converted into salts and may, in extreme cases, eat completely through the metal. Pitting corrosion is usually detected by the appearance of clumps of white powder on the surface. Pitting results from the chemical actions of moisture, acid, alkali, or some solutions on the metal after the paint surface oxide or other protective film has either been removed or penetrated. Once pitting has begun, it is propagated by means of concentration cells or galvanic action. The pits found in this type of corrosion usually have a rather short, well-defined edge with walls that run almost perpendicular to the surface of the metal. All forms of pits have one thing in common regardless of their shape. They penetrate deeply into the metal and cause damage completely out of proportions to the amount of metal consumed. Number 8. Exfoliation corrosion. Exfoliation corrosion, despite its high sounding name, it's simply an extreme case of intergranular corrosion. It occurs chiefly in extruded materials such as channels or angles, when the grain structure is more laminar or bracket layer-like than in rolled sheets or castings. This type of corrosion occurs along the grain boundaries and causes the material to separate or delaminate. As with other types of intergranular corrosion, by the time it is evident on the surface, the metal has been damaged beyond salvage. Number 9. Concentration cell corrosion, in which A is a oxygen concentration cell corrosion. When water in bracket H2O covers the surface of an aluminum airplane skin and seeps into the cracks between the lap joints, oxygen concentration cell corrosion may form. Since water in an open area will readily absorb oxygen from the air, it will attract electrons from the metal to form negative hydroxide ions. 2 molecules of water plus 1 molecules of oxygen plus 4 electrons will form a 4 negative hydroxide ions. 2H2O plus O2 gives 2H2O plus O2 plus 4 electrons gives 4 hydroxide, 4OH. The electrons required to form these negative ions come from the metal itself. The area between the skins does not give up electrons into the water on its surface because there is not enough oxygen there to form hydroxide ions. Its electrons flow instead to the cathodic surface, the open area. The area between the skins, having lost electrons, now contains positive aluminum ions, and this area becomes the anode. As we have seen, electrons flow within the metal from the anode to the cathode, leaving positive metals ions in the area between the sheets. These positive aluminum ions attract negative hydroxide ions from the open water and the aluminum corrodes, forming aluminum hydroxide. The unusual characteristic of the type of corrosion is that it forms in the areas where there is a deficiency of oxygen. Oxygen concentration cell corrosion can occur on aluminum, magnesium, or on ferrous metals. It forms under marking tape of ferrules on aluminum tubing beneath sealer that has loosened and under bolt or screw heads. When dirt or other oxygen excluding contamination forms, on an anodized surface and the oxide film is scratched. Oxygen concentration cell corrosion can prevent the protective film from reforming. B. Metallic ion concentration cell corrosion. The electrode potential within a metal is dependent on the different metals that make up the alloy, but a potential difference will occur if an electrolyte having a non-uniform concentration of metal ion covers the surface. We have the representation of the surface of an aircraft which is covered with a film of water. I am giving you figure for this. Was true in oxygen concentration cell corrosion. When water absorbs oxygen, it attracts electrons from the metal and forms negative hydroxide ions. When these electrons left, the positive aluminum ions were formed. The water can move freely on the surface of the metal, and this movement continuously carries the aluminum ions away. But the water between the faying surfaces of the skins does not move, and if therefore has a higher concentration of metal ions than there is in the open. The skin area between the faying surface, where the concentration of positive metal ions is the highest, becomes the cathode and attracts electrons from the skin in the open area, which is the anode. As electrons flow from the anode to the cathode, they leave positive aluminum ions on the surface near the supply of negative hydroxide ions. These hydroxide ions join the aluminum ions to form aluminum hydroxide corrosion. Notice the difference between the two types of concentration cell corrosion. The metallic ion concentration cell corrosion forms on an open surface, while oxygen concentration cell corrosion forms in the closed area between the faying surfaces. Corrosion on airplanes is usually complex and is generally composed of more than one type. Next is filiform type of corrosion. In forms of corrosion, the next is filiform corrosion. Filiform corrosion forms in fine thread or filament-like lines under a polyurethane enamel finish. If the wash primer is used on the metal has not been properly cured, a wash primer is a two-part metal preparation material in which phosphoric acid converts the surface of the metal into a phosphate film that protects the metal from corrosion and provide an excellent bond for the top coats of the finish. If there is not enough moisture in the air to convert all of the acid, some acid will remain on the metal. Then if a dense polyurethane film is applied, the acid will be trapped and will react with the aluminum alloy to form corrosion. Filiform corrosion shows itself as a puffiness under the paint film and is first noticed around rivet head and along the lap joints of the skins. When the paint film is broken, you will notice that the puffiness was caused by the growth of the powdery salts of corrosion. There is no cure for filiform corrosion short of stripping all of the paint, removing the corrosion, treating the surface of metal and refinishing the aircraft. Filiform corrosion does not usually form under acrylic lacquer because of its porous enough to allow moisture from the air to penetrate the film and complete the conversion of any acid that was left on the metal. It is because of the possibility of the formation of filiform corrosion that epoxy primers are used under polyurethane finishes when the speed of finishing to not of prime concern. Now more about this filiform corrosion. Filiform corrosion usually occurs under the oil, grease or varnish film and is likely to be found on metal surfaces which have a protective film of any sort if there is evidence of a lack of adhesion of the protective film, and appears like worm casts on aluminium and magnesium alloys. Exfoliation appears as eruption of flakiness on extruded alloys and can be a serious problem, although it is a relatively less harmful form of intergranular attack. In this note, intergranular corrosion may occur without stress in the presence of acid chloride solutions or urine, etc., and the latter is often the cause of intergranular cracks which lead to component failure. Next is microbial corrosion. Microbial or microbiological corrosion occurs in integral fuel tanks and is caused by the presence of bacteria and fungus in aviation kerosene. The fungus grows on the fuel or water interface and the metabolic products corrode the metallic structure.